Have you ever gone on a date by accident? I mean, literally sat down at a table thinking you were at a networking event and realized you were speed dating because your roommate has boundary issues and a God complex. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. I should have known something was up when Amelia offered to do my laundry. She doesn't even do her own laundry. But there she was, folding my underwear with a little smirk, like a raccoon trying to hide a crime. "Just wear something clean and date-adjacent," she said. I squinted at her. What does that mean? Something that says I'm chill but dateable, not like grieving librarian vibes. Charming. But I should have known better. I should have asked more questions. Instead, I let her drop me off at the cafe, still believing this was a networking event for creatives, whatever that means. It wasn't. It was queer speed dating. There were name tags. There were tiny tables. There was a bell that sounded like shame in physical form. I froze in the doorway like a sensible adult who just realized they were on the wrong stage of the wrong play. Amelia was already in her car. I checked. That coward. The host. Purple hair, clipboard, piercing that screamed, "I own crystals," ushered me in. "You're Beth, right? Great. You're in seat 6. I'm not," I started, but got steamrolled by a smile. "It's just 6 minutes per person. Easy." So I sat. Because I am a coward too, apparently. The first 2 dates were fine, in the same way that oatmeal is fine. One woman talked exclusively about her ex. The other said I had serious therapist energy, which is the exact opposite of sexy. Then table 3 happened. Eva. She didn't look like she'd come for speed dating. No desperation, no fidgeting, no built-in anecdotes. She looked like she'd just wandered in by accident and stayed for the air conditioning. She sat down across from me, crossed her legs at the ankle. Smooth linen pants, white button-up with rolled sleeves. Subtle gold chain. She looked settled. Her eyes flicked to my name tag, then back to my face. "Beth," she said, like she was testing the weight of it. "You look like someone who uses coasters." I blinked. That feels like an accusation. "No," she said, smiling. "Just an observation. You have that energy, structured, responsible. Probably responds to emails on time." "Do you open with this on all your dates?" "Only when they look like they'd alphabetize their bookshelf." I stared at her. "You're 3 for 3 so far." Her smile deepened, more with her eyes than her mouth, and for the first time all night, I didn't want the bell to ring. "So," she said, casually glancing around the room, "how'd you get roped into this?" "My roommate lied to me." "Ooh, classic." "She told me it was a networking event for sad introverts with hobbies." Eva nodded like that made perfect sense. Honestly, that's still accurate. The timer dinged. 6 minutes gone. But she didn't move. Neither did I. "Well," she said, slowly rising, "I'm at table 10 next. Come say hi after." I didn't answer. I just watched her walk away, calm, composed, like she wasn't just the first person in months who made me laugh without trying too hard. The rest of the night was a blur of polite smiles and dead air. Nobody else asked about my bookshelf. Nobody else noticed how tightly I gripped my own wrist when I was nervous. Nobody else made me forget to check the clock. I found Eva by the espresso machine afterward, staring at a crooked sign that said, "Love is brewing." She looked unimpressed. "False advertising?" I said. She smirked. "I've had better coffee, but not worse dates." Was I in the better or worse category? "Oh, you're an outlier," she said, tilting her head. "You're not even on the same graph." Is that a compliment? Only if you want it to be. We left together, not planned, just happened. Outside, the air was cool, and the city lights flickered like they were unsure of themselves. We walked without really saying it, just fell into step. I didn't know where we were going. I didn't care. Do you do this often? I asked. Speed dating? God, no. I looked at her sideways. So why now? She hesitated. My sister dared me, said I'd gone full hermit. I agreed after one glass of wine and a weird week. I like that, I said. Full hermit. Sounds like a rare Pokemon. I'm very elusive, she said dryly. Only comes out for houseplants and overpriced pastries. We walked a bit more. Then, so, what's your story? I laughed. Vague. On purpose. I shoved my hands in my jacket pockets. Fine. I work in publishing. I design things no one reads. I'm recently single, not recently over it, just recently not screaming into pillows. That's fair. And you? I run a plant shop, she said, and bake obsessively when I'm anxious, which is always. I stopped walking. Wait, do you know how to make those tiny lemon tarts? She turned to face me. I am the tiny lemon tart. I nearly choked. That's going on your business card. We stood there, under a street lamp, both too aware of the pause. I felt like something was waiting to be said, but I didn't know what it was yet. Neither did she. Beth, she said, suddenly more serious. Was tonight a total accident for you? I nodded. Yeah. She looked at me for a second longer than was comfortable. But I'm glad it happened, I added, because it was true. And terrifying. She smiled, and this time it reached everywhere. Her eyes, her cheeks, the air around her. Me too. And that was it. She didn't lean in. I didn't flinch. We just stood there, quietly hopeful. We didn't plan to see each other again. Not because we didn't want to, more like neither of us wanted to want to. But 3 days after speed dating, I was standing in front of Eva's shop window at 9:42 p.m., holding a coffee I didn't even like, because she'd texted, "Can't sleep. Wanna walk?" I almost didn't go. I almost made a cup of tea, did a face mask, and lied to myself about moving on. Instead, I pulled on clean jeans, a loose navy button-up, and showed up like a rational adult who absolutely wasn't emotionally spiraling in a fitted jacket. The shop was closed, of course, but the window display was painfully her. Well-lit monstera, tiny ceramic frogs, and a chalkboard sign that said, "Yes, you probably do need another plant." The bell jingled as I stepped inside. "Back here," she called. I followed the smell of something warm and baked, which was, surprise, a tray of cookies that looked like they'd been made by someone both heartbroken and clinically competent. Eva stood behind the counter in wide-leg black trousers and a soft gray sweatshirt that, okay, yes, had slightly oversized sleeves, but not in a I live in my ex's hoodie kind of way. More like I buy good loungewear and know my worth. "You came," she said, not surprised. "You sounded mysterious," I said, "and unstable. I like that in a person." She handed me a cookie and gestured toward the door. "Let's walk." The streets were quiet, that late-night kind of quiet, where everything feels one layer softer than usual. No honking, no phones ringing, just the scrape of our shoes and the occasional flicker of streetlights pretending they were still useful. "So," she said, "still mad at your roommate?" "Deeply. She's on a probationary friend plan. One emotional betrayal, and she's out." Eva laughed. "You seem like someone who forgives too easily." "Why would you think that?" "You brought me a coffee you don't even like." I stopped walking. "Wait, how do you know I don't like it?" "Because you're not drinking it. You're holding it like it insulted your taste." I stared at the cup. "Okay, first of all rude, second of all accurate." She smiled at me, not teasing, just soft. Like I was a puzzle she enjoyed being bad at. We walked in silence for a while after that. Not awkward, just quiet, comfortable. At some point, we ended up by the river, where the city gets more dramatic about its lighting, and people pretend metal benches are romantic. Eva sat first, crossing her legs like she was settling in for a confession. I stayed standing. I didn't know why. "Okay," she said, tucking her hair behind one ear. "Can I ask you something weird?" "No, let's keep it strictly surface level and transactional," she laughed. "Cool. Anyway, have you always been into women?" There it was, the question. I sat beside her, but angled away, eyes on the water. "Define into," she waited. "I've dated men," I said. One very long, very polite relationship that ended when he proposed, and I realized I didn't want to say yes or no. I just wanted to leave the room. Oof. Yeah. I thought maybe I was confused. But then, I started noticing other things. Like? Like a very specific attraction to women who wear loafers and make better cookies than me. Eva snorted. Noted. I paused. What about you? She shrugged. I've always known. I just didn't always admit it. To others? To myself, she said more quietly. I glanced at her. Her face had changed. Not sad exactly, but less constructed. The same way people look when they stop trying to carry their weight with good posture. She was fidgeting with her sleeve. I almost reached for her hand. Almost. Instead, I asked, "What changed?" I dated someone who made me feel like I didn't have to explain anything. I didn't say anything, but something in my chest shifted. She's not around anymore, Eva added, but I think about her when I bake. She used to say cinnamon tasted like safety, I smiled. Your cookies taste like a mortgage payment and emotional stability. Best compliment I've ever gotten. The silence after that was longer. Not heavy, just honest. I studied her in the quiet. The light on her cheekbone, the way her lips parted before she spoke. Her expression shifted like she was holding back a thought just long enough to decide if it deserved air. She looked steady, unhurried, like someone who didn't need to fill the silence to feel okay in it. I don't know what I'm doing, I said. Eva turned toward me. With? This. You, us, me. All the vague nouns. She smiled a little, then sobered. You don't have to. But it feels unfair to show up with question marks when you clearly know who you are. She didn't reply right away. When she did, it was careful. I don't expect answers. I just want to know if you'd rather be somewhere else right now. No, I said. God, no. Okay, then. That was it. That was enough. She stood up, brushed imaginary crumbs off her pants. Walk you home? Please do. I'm not emotionally stable enough for late-night solo reflection. At my door, she didn't linger, didn't make it a moment. This was good, she said. It was, I agreed. She started to turn, then stopped. Beth? Yeah? You don't have to apologize for not being sure. That's not a flaw. My throat tightened. I nodded because I couldn't speak. She left me standing there, holding a coffee I didn't drink, and a silence that felt like something waiting to grow. 2 weeks, that's how long it had been since our midnight walk. Since that almost moment at my doorstep. Since Eva looked at me like she wanted to keep looking. And I didn't know what to do with that. We texted, sort of. Random updates, cookie photos, a screenshot of a very cursed bonsai tree. But neither of us said, when are we seeing each other again? Which meant it was probably my turn. And I was very, very good at avoiding my turn. You should text her, Amelia said, flopped sideways on my couch like a judgmental house cat. Not until I feel normal. So, never? I threw a pillow at her. She caught it without moving. She's going to think you're ghosting her. I'm not. You're haunting her, which is worse. That night, I sat at my desk and tried to work. Failed. Made tea. Let it go cold. Got up. Sat down. Stared at the text thread between me and Eva like it might start typing on its own. Then I did something terrifying. I called her. She picked up on the second ring. Beth? Hey, are you free? Now? A pause. Then, yeah, you okay? Not even a little. She met me halfway, because of course she did. She wore a soft green jacket over a black dress with boots that made her walk sound decisive. My breath hitched a little when I saw her, which was not ideal, but very real. You look like someone who hasn't slept, she said. I look like someone who's been emotionally constipated for 2 weeks. Her mouth twitched. Want to talk? Not really, but I think I need to. We walked in no particular direction. The air was cold enough that our hands kept brushing when we shoved them into our coat pockets at the same time. I pretended not to notice. So did she. I kept waiting to be sure, I finally said, like some light bulb would go off. Did it? No, but I got tired of sitting in the dark. She glanced at me. I didn't look back. I've never had this with someone, I said, where it doesn't feel like I have to be anything but whatever the hell I am. That's kind of the goal, she said softly. I stopped walking. I don't know what you want from me, Eva. She turned toward me. I don't want anything from you. My stomach flipped. I want time with you, she said. That's all. And if at some point that's not what you want, that's okay too. But don't talk yourself out of something that makes you feel alive, just because it didn't come with a label. I stared at her. And don't you dare say sorry, she added, unless you actually ran over my cat. You don't have a cat? Exactly. The tension in my chest eased just enough to breathe. I reached out, carefully, not dramatically, and touched her sleeve. I don't have a plan, I said. Good, she replied, stepping closer. People with plans are exhausting. Our foreheads almost touched, and still, no one leaned in. I want to try, I whispered. Even if I screw it up. You will, I laughed. Comforting. I'll probably screw it up too. You seem too composed for that. She shook her head. I have 5 unread breakup letters in a Google Doc called Things I Never Sent. I blinked. I weirdly love that. I'll read you one if we ever break up. Deal. Then, finally, she kissed me. Not a movie kiss, no violins, no sudden rain, just soft and certain and strangely quiet, like we were both afraid to break the moment by naming it. When she pulled back, I looked at her, a little dazed. I should have done that weeks ago, I said. You weren't ready. Still not, but I like your face too much to keep waiting. She grinned. That's the gayest thing you've ever said. We ended up back at her place. Not for anything dramatic, just warm lights, the smell of cookies that had gone slightly stale, and a couch with a weirdly judgmental throw pillow that said, live, laugh, leaf. I hate that pillow, I muttered. I keep it to test people, she said. If you're strong enough to stay after seeing that thing, you're allowed in my life. We sat down. I kicked off my shoes and curled one leg under me. She tossed me a blanket without asking. It was absurdly soft. She didn't ask to kiss me again. She just touched my hand, lightly, curiously, and waited to see if I'd pull away. I didn't. The touch drifted up, tracing the inside of my wrist, as if she were learning it. And I let her, because no one had ever touched me like that, not to claim anything, just to understand it. Her fingers moved slow, steady, up my arm like she was sketching with her hands. Not groping, not reaching for something, just exploring the idea of closeness, testing where the air got warmest. "Is this okay?" she whispered, her voice barely above the hum of the old heater. "Yes," I said, quieter than I meant to. "It's more than okay." We didn't talk much after that. She lay beside me on the couch, her legs tangled in mine, her palm resting on my stomach like it belonged there. We didn't kiss again. We didn't need to. She touched my neck. I brushed her thigh. Every movement said, "I want to know this part of you too." It was nothing I'd done before, but it didn't feel foreign. It felt like reading a language I'd only ever heard in a dream. And finally, understanding the grammar. We didn't fall asleep together that night. I went home because I wanted to, and she let me, because she understood. But when I got in bed, my phone lit up with a message. "You said you didn't know what this was." Me neither. But it feels like something worth figuring out. And that was enough. Not clarity, not closure, just two people quietly choosing each other, even if it's only for tonight, or the next walk, or one more coffee they'll pretend to like. No fireworks, just warmth. And that's more than enough.